Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Greetings, good people of the planet Earth and the known universe. You're listening to Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. This is your Captain Keith. And today on deck we have American Horror Story, Apocalypse, and a revisit to Marvel's Cloak Dagger, Season 1. Season 2 will be on its way shortly. So let's get to it. So I finally got a chance to finish the first season of Cloak and Dagger, and it did not disappoint at all. Once again, that series is an original series based off a Marvel comic book, and it is on the Freeform network. That's also a network that also provides Siren and Beyond. So they have some really cool science fiction stuff on that network. So to give you a synopsis once again about Cloak and Dagger, two teenagers from different backgrounds find themselves burdened and awakened to newly acquired superpowers well, it says while they fall in love. But, you know, right now that's what the synopsis says, but I'll say this: those teenagers have other romantic love interests. But usually, if you put a boy and girl together in a show and they're the main characters, that's kind of something that you usually see happening anyway. So, but at this point in time, that hasn't happened yet. The stars of the show are Olivia Holt and Aubrey Joseph. Olivia Holt plays Tandy. Aubrey Joseph plays Tyrone. And Joe Pokaski is the creator of this series. So Olivia Holt's other name, her superhero name, is Dagger, and Aubrey Joseph's superhero name is Cloak. So Tyrone is Cloak, Tandy is Dagger. So, and Gloria Rubin plays Adina Johnson. It's Tyrone's mom. So it's she's great on the show. And Miles Mussenden plays Otis Johnson, Tyrone's father. So, let's see. And Andrea Roth plays Melissa Bowen, which is Tandy's mom. So Tandy Bowen's her name. Yeah, so Andrea Roth plays her. So let me, one second, I'm gonna get fully into what's going on with this show. I will say this about this show, that it doesn't have the traditional archetype. I mean, Tandy and Tyrone are definitely the main characters in this series, and you think there would be a traditional like arc for their characters. And there seems to be more so for Tyrone than for Tandy, but even then, not completely. So what I'm saying is that with both of these characters, they're young. They're in high school. Well, Tyrone's in high school. Tandy is not. And to my knowledge, I believe they're like the same age. So I don't know if she dropped out of high school or what, or maybe she's older. It's not quite clear. But when you see like the first episode, they're kids when they meet, and it's like a random thing that happens, and they don't think anything of their meeting as children when it happens. Matter of fact, it's safe to say they don't think they'll ever see each other again, but there's a defining moment that happens that changes their lives forever and will link them basically forever. So, and I will say one thing. When you watch the show and you get further into the season, there's a history there that they know nothing about. This TV show is it's filmed in New Orleans and it's based about the city of New Orleans, so which is good. So they're doing it all there. I think that's really cool. So Tyrone's power, he has the power of cloak, which means that he can make himself disappear and teleport somewhere else. And you see like black smoke when he does that. He has to concentrate, of course. Tandy's power is she's the dagger. She can make a white dagger appear from her hand anytime she wants. Now, what's different about both of them is that if Tandy touches you when she's in her full power mode, she can see your desires and your dreams. She can literally see them. And she can walk into your dreams. So the question is, does she have influence on your desire and dreams? Or is she just an observer? I mean, either way it goes, that's a pretty powerful thing to see what someone dreams and see what they truly desire secretly. Now, when Tyrone touches you, he can see nothing but your fears. So yeah, I guess they play on the stereotype of, black is dark and evil. So, he's the black guy with the cloak, like a black cloak, and he can disappear. And if he touches you, he can see your fears. He can see, your deepest and darkest fears. And he's observing it. And once again, the question is, does he have the power to change that, or is he just an observer? So he's the night and she's the day. But what's interesting is that, so Tyrone is the only child in his family, but he wasn't born that way. So, and he feels a lot of pressure to be perfect because he feels like he has to live up to someone else's ideal. And so his relationship with his parents is kind of strained. They love him, and they seem to be very honest and hardworking people. They don't get really emotional, but let's just say they've been through a lot. And Tyrone's a young teenage boy, and he's kind of a sensitive cat. And there was a traumatic incident that he never really got over. And when he tried to speak on that incident, no one really believed him because he was a little boy when it happened. And he's been carrying that around with him, in his formative years. So, and then Tandy's situation is that she basically lost her father when she was a young girl. And she never got over that. She has a strained relationship with her mom. Her mom seems to have a problem with drinking. So Tandy doesn't like to be home. So she spends a lot of time with her boyfriend. And she also likes to run scams or cons on guys. She makes them think that she likes them. She'll go back to their place and she'll drug them and, steal from them. Yeah, I can tell you that. So now, mind you, she's one of the main characters. So like I said, the archetype for this series is not traditional. And it's challenging and intriguing in that way because, you want to root for the good guy and the good girl. And Tyrone doesn't mean to have a chip on his shoulder, but he kind of does because of the loss he had in his family. And, he's in school, doing all that he can, but it's just like he lives at home with his folks, but he's still kind of like a stranger to them, and they're kind of a stranger to him. They don't really listen to each other. And you can tell that, his parents, they're strong people, because I'll just say that, if you face a family tragedy, usually it either brings the family together or tears them apart. It didn't tear their family apart, but it's like all three of them are still kind of stuck. So basically, Tyrone's thing is that he wants justice for a right that was wrong to his family. And he doesn't know how to get it, and it frustrates him. Tandy's thing is just she doesn't really care about anybody because the person she idolized for her father is gone. And it just left a big hole, a gap in her life because her mom, she didn't stop to bother to see that it affected her mom too, and it kind of broke her as well. That's why she's drinking and, dating the wrong types of men. So Tandy spends all her time with her boyfriend, and they're running the grift, running the con on people. And that's no way to live. And basically a chain of events happen or a turn of events where Tandy's power finally manifests, and so does Tyrone's. So they met as young children, but as teenagers, they don't really know each other. So basically at this point, Tandy's like the girl from the wrong side of the tracks, and Tyrone is like the boy next door, or he's the frustrated boy next door. who's good in basketball. He's getting good grades in school. So, but, like I said, he's seeking justice, and he knows that he's not going to feel right until he gets it. So that's his goal, but he doesn't want to tell his parents. So when he finds out he has these powers, he doesn't share that with them. And I got to tell you that Gloria Rubin, who I believe used to be on ER, does a great job playing Tyrone's mom. And Miles Mussenden, who plays Otis Johnson, he's great too. They just, you really feel for them as a family, because you can see that they're accomplished people, but they're not that happy, and they're still like, their lives still, they seem to be kind of stuck, and there's still like a lingering fear in the air that no one talks about. And because Tyrone's such a, he's a young teenager just trying to, make his way through, his high school life, he's definitely focused on how he feels about things. And I think he's felt isolated because no one believed him when he talked about what happened to his brother. But the thing is that he's not paying attention to how hard things have been for his parents, and how hard things still are. So he's like he's the thing that gets them to get up in the morning and go to work, and he's just not seeing that because he can't see past his own anger and grief. So this show is directed very well. You believe these characters, when you watch Tyrone or Aubrey, what's his real name again? Is Aubrey, Joseph? Yeah, when you watch him, he is Tyrone Johnson. And when you watch Olivia Holt, she is Tandy Bowen. Tandy's jaded. She just doesn't care. She feels like everyone's out to get you, so she just tries to get them first. But she tries to be very clever about it, and she is for the most part. But you know what they say, that stuff will really, eventually can catch up to you. You can't do that kind of thing forever. And her boyfriend is in her corner, but it just seems like when Tandy's father died, like I said, it just kind of broke something in her. So she's just not the most reliable person. And Tyrone is very reliable, but he's just it's hard for him to focus, like I said, because it's eating away at him about what happened in his family with his brother. But what's cool with this show is that you see I mean, this show definitely gets into corruption, especially like corruption with police and the system. And it's very, it can get very dark. We'll talk some more about Cloak and Dagger after this break.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
And once again, you're listening to Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. This is your Captain Keith, talking about Marvel's Cloak and Dagger on the Freeform Network. Talking more about Tandy and Tyrone, the main characters, Tandy Bowen and Tyrone Johnson. So basically, you know, the story is that, you know, Tyrone's brother, he gets killed. And it's his older brother, his big brother. He's never really gotten over that. Tandy's father dies, and he worked for this company, and he died in like this explosion, and basically the company made it look like it was his fault that the explosion happened in the first place when it really wasn't. So Tandy's trying to clear her father's name from this company, and Tyrone is trying to get justice for his brother. So they both have axes to grind. And what's interesting about this show is because they're both young people, and, you know, it takes a while before they start to click with each other because they're kind of just not too trusting, especially Tandy, because of how she's been living her life. Now, mind you, Tandy's mom has a home, and Tandy can go stay at home anytime she wants, but because her mom drinks so much, she doesn't usually go there. They don't get along. But once again, so you got these, you know, young teenagers who are all about their feelings, and, you know, and they have a right to their anger to an extent, but they're letting that cloud their judgment, and they're not understanding that their parents are people too, and that, you know, it didn't just affect them as kids, what happened. It affected, you know, what happened to Tandy's dad affect her mom greatly, you know, and like I said, what happened to Adina and Otis Johnson losing their older son, you know, that still haunts them. You can see it in their face when they're having dinner with Tyrone or breakfast at the table. So, you know, Tandy starts working with people to try to, you know, take down the company that's, you know, that they gave her father a bad name even in his death. And, you know, she idolizes her dad because she was just real close to him. She was a daddy's girl. So, you know, that accident that killed him was a defining moment for her. And, you know, there was the death of Tyrone's older brother was a defining moment for him as well. So one thing is that Tandy seems to have more of a grip on her powers. It's real easy for her to manifest cloaks from her hands. Manifest daggers from her hand if she needs to defend herself, to throw. I mean, she's good at that. Tyrone is still having issues making sure he can disappear and teleport somewhere else. He's not quite sure why, so, you know, he's got to clear his head and figure that out. So he's got the power, but he's not necessarily in full control of it yet. So, and he hasn't told his parents, and of course, Tandy hasn't told her mom, so they're keeping this to themselves. And Tyrone, when he's not going to school, you know, when he's not in school, he conducts his own investigation to see if he can try to figure out, you know, what happened to the person that killed his brother. Because basically, this person has been protected by the police in New Orleans, in the you know, on the show. When Tyrone, as a young boy, said, you know, this is, you know, the guy who shot my brother looks like this. He had the scar on his cheek. the police are like, we don't have a detective like that. So the parents are like, what can the parents do to that? They have a dead son and nobody's answered for it. I mean, that's got to be a fate worse than death, So they're dealing with that. And now they're left with a little boy who used to idolize his brother. And it's challenging, they don't, like I said, everyone's present, but they're not. They're all sitting there, they're all there, but there's no real conversation going on, and there needs to be. And Tandy, like I said, she's out and about trying to figure out how she can clear her father's name. And basically, she's real close to her boyfriend, but some situation happens to him, and basically Tandy leaves him hanging dry. So like I said, this show, it's a superhero show, but when you're watching it, you're not necessarily getting that feeling because, one character just can't get past his own feelings and, have some self-control. He's still trying to get control of his power. And another character, she's kind of sociopathic. She's definitely in it to win it. She's been jaded and scarred. And she doesn't trust anybody, and she looks out for herself. So when you're watching this show, you're like, do I really like this person, Tandy? Do I want to root for her? Because she's not real nice right now. And you're looking at Tyrone like, dude, and get it together. Just focus, practice your power, and don't try not to look so serious all the time. I get it. You got stuff you're going through, but, why don't you try talking it out with your parents? So it's just, the dynamics are really interesting to see what's going on. And when they discover more about their powers, because at first, Tyrone doesn't know that he can see people's fears, if they touch him. Yeah, he's not aware of that, and Tandy's not aware that if she touches people, she can see their dreams and aspirations. So it's two different sides to the same coin. And then, Tyrone has his girlfriend who's really nice and really cool. I like her a lot. Her name on the show is Evita Fusilier, played by Noelle Renee Bercy. She lives with her aunt, and her aunt's like a mystic. She's into tarot cards and, and things of that nature about your fortune and about destiny. And she's warning her niece, Evita, that, this town is in for something really serious and bad, and we got to be ready, and we have to find the divine pair. So when she says that, Evita's like, well, what are you talking about? And the aunt is like, there's the divine pair. I need for you to find them. And she's like, tell me more about, your little boyfriend. Talk about Tyrone. And what's cool about Evita is that Evita sees that Tyrone's going through things, and she's there. She likes him. She doesn't, she's very present. She digs him a lot. And it's one of the few times where he actually softens up is when he's with her and around her. So that's really cool to see. So she's like, well, to my knowledge, Tyrone is a normal guy. He's just a kid like me, a teenager. And her aunt's looking at her like, well, I don't know. And she's like, just be vigilant and understand that, things are going to change real soon. So that's going on. And basically, Tyrone finds his older brother, one of his best friends. He tracks him down, looks him up. And when the friend of Tyrone's brother sees him, he greets him, gives him a hug and talks to him. Well, he may not give him a hug, but he greets him and he talks to him. And Tyrone can tell that, this former friend of his brother's is definitely, he's a businessman, but not the type that you want to be in business with. And Tyrone figures, well, I'm going to work for him, and that way I can infiltrate his organization and figure out what happened with my brother, see if there's a witness who can help corroborate what I saw. So the person who did what he did, who killed my brother, can go to jail. So he asked his brother's his friend, hey, can I work for you? And the friend is like, no, man, you need to stay in school, do what you want to do. This street life is not for you. No. So he tries to look out for Tyrone. He sends him away. And then you find out that there's a police officer who's new to the force, the precinct, and she's investigating some people, or she's doing an investigation. And one of the officers that she's working with, he's watching her. He tries to let's just say that she plays a very important part of the story. And when Tyrone's big brother's friends like, no, you keep him in school, Tyrone leaves, and he's like, back to the drawing board. So he feels a little defeated and disappointed because he's trying to figure out, where the witness is, who can corroborate his story. So, and then Tandy winds up scamming a job as an intern to work with this chemist / environmentalist, or this engineer. She's an engineer, actually. And she might actually be a chemical engineer. So Tandy winds up getting the job with her. And as the viewer, you find out that the girl she's working for, because you're asking yourself, why is she working for this person? Well, because this person works for the company that her dad used to work for. And you find out when you watch the show that this person, her dad, actually worked with Tandy's dad. They were colleagues. They knew each other. And it appears that, and the person that Tandy's working for, her name is Mina Hess, played by Ali Mackey. And she is the daughter of Ivan Hess, played by Tim Kaine. And basically, Tim Kaine was a part of that accident that happened all those years ago that affected Tandy's dad. And, so basically, Tandy's like, well, her dad's got to be able to help me, clear my dad's name. So she doesn't tell Mina who she is. So Mina at first thinks that, okay, yeah, she's an intern, so she'll get my coffee, and I'll show her different things, and we'll talk, and we'll go out in the pond with waders on and dig up samples. So she might be a biochemical engineer. So, but yeah, so that's happening. So Tandy's going undercover, and it's working. She's trying to infiltrate, so she can get access to, Mina's dad or anybody else that can help her clear her father's name. That's the mission she's on. She holds her father on a really high pedestal. So that's good. Now, a chain of events happen, like I said, I believe, and Tandy's boyfriend, who she's been with for a while, who she's been running scans with, gets caught by the police, gets arrested, and he doesn't have any bail money. So, and basically, he gives Tandy a call and asks her if she can bail him out, because they had saved money together so they can get away and get out of town. And he wanted her to use that money to bail him out. And now, mind you, this is Tandy's boyfriend, so she's been with him for a while. She takes other guys back to their hotel, and she basically kind of roofies them and steals their wallet and their money. But, so she never sleeps with them. It's a con. But, her boyfriend is her boyfriend, so she's close to him. So I was surprised when she never went to bail him out. He made us one phone call, and he had to rot in prison, So, that story is going to play itself out later on down the line. But I will say this, that eventually Tyrone figures out how to control his cloak power. And Tandy's already in control of her dagger power. It's not even a real issue for her. But Tyrone's got to figure out how to get a witness to help put away the cop that killed his brother. And Mina eventually figures out that Tandy is not an intern. And Tandy comes clean and tells her who she is. And Mina's like, oh yeah, my father used to work with yours. Well, she's like, I want to see your dad. She goes, I'll take you to him. She goes to see the dad, and he is basically catatonic. He's alive, but he can't talk. He stares up into space, and no one can really reach him. But the cool thing is that that's how it was. But he's now going to meet Tandy because Mina's going to introduce her. So he hasn't met Tandy or Tyrone yet. And because he's catatonic, those are basically the only two people who can get in his mind and find out what happened the night of that accident. And that whole sequence is filled with action and intrigue, and it's cool. It's that was a lot of fun to watch when they go into his mind. Because they don't do it, Tandy doesn't do it at first, but she basically sneaks in with Tyrone later. They both touch him, and they go into his mind, and they find out a lot about what's going on. And you can really see how deeply affected Tandy is by her father's death in that episode. It's pretty cool, actually. But enough about Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. It's an excellent show. Lots of action and intrigue. And it's cool to watch these characters develop and grow because they're not necessarily the squeakiest, the cleanest, squeakiest people. They're not the meanest, dirtiest people either. They're just not your typical heroes, so to speak, at least not yet. They're still finding out who they are as teenagers, which I guess actually makes for pretty good writing. But it's Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. Season 2 will be coming out next year. Looking forward to that. Every episode is great. Check it out. It's on the Freeform network. You won't be disappointed. And when we come back, we'll talk about American Horror Story Apocalypse.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And once again, you're listening to GSMC Television Podcast. I'm your Captain Keith. And we're talking about Marvel's Cloak and Dagger series on the Freeform Network. And by the way, so there's a lot more intrigue going on in that show with the company. I forget the name of the company that Tandy's dad worked for. They have a secret. They're hiding something. And let's just say it's really big. And Tyrone's girlfriend, Evita, her aunt, she heeds that the town is in trouble. And the closer you get towards the end of the season, things start to fall apart. And they get really interesting. And then there's a teacher who has this dialogue on, what the hero does and doesn't do. And it plays very well in the episode that I'm talking about. When they go back and flash back on Tyrone and Tandy, there's a point in this show where, you don't know, are these two going to take the right corner, take the right turn to get them where they need to go? Are these both going to be people that I root for, or am I going to just root for one of them, not the other? Is it that I like Tyrone and I don't like Tandy because she's too cold? Or is it that I like Tandy because I know she's been through it and she's a survivor, and Tyrone's too spoiled and just self-absorbed? Or is it that they're both just, you know, raging hormones, just trying to figure out who they are? You know, are they both just people trying to get a hold of their feelings, trying to control who they are and be taken seriously? Because, you know, a lot of times if you're a teenager, a lot of times you might feel like people don't take you seriously when they should. So, I mean, both actors do a great job playing their roles. Olivia Holt and Aubrey Joseph do a great job. They really do. They're very compelling. Very. So, you know, the thing is, and the cool thing about this show too is that as a viewer, you know, it's Marvel. Oh, they're going to be superheroes. But if you were to ask Tandy and Tyrone, they're like, what are you talking about? This is just something that happened to us, and we're just trying to get along and survive. So there's a bigger picture that both teenagers don't see yet, but it comes more and more into focus later. But they're both great characters to watch out for. Andrea Roth, who plays Tandy's mom, Melissa Bowen, great actress. That's a good job. Watch out for her. There's some surprises with her character. I really like Mina Hess, played by Ali Mackey, the biochemical engineer. She's great. She's very positive. And even though her dad's been like in this catatonic state for years, she's still very upbeat about life. So it's cool to watch her and how she doesn't really let anything get her down. And the question you have to ask yourself, like I said, is that, you know, will Tandy and Tyrone rise to the occasion, or will they falter? And, you know, and it's interesting to see. And then at one point, you know, do you actually get what you want? And does it stay that way, or is it a never-ending battle? I mean, there's so many different things going on. Will Tyrone find justice for his slain brother? Will Tandy be able to clear her father's name? Will they both find out things that change the whole game, that are game changers? Who are they? Are they just people with bad luck who happen to have powers? Or are they meant for much more? But it's a great drama. The direction for the whole season was superb. Looking forward to seeing season 2 and who the bad guys are. So we talked about there are human beings that are bad guys, but are there any supervillains? You have to tune in and watch, because I'm not going to say. But so much time focuses on the drama about the tragedies that happen to both of these kids or these teenagers. And they both have to deal with corruption, one from a police force and one from a corporate entity. And both forces are giants, basically. They're the big fish in the ponds. So how can two teenagers go up against them and win? Will they? I mean, this is a series, so will it be something that rolls over into season 2? Will it be something that goes for the whole series? I mean, because this is kind of molded who they are and shaped and shifted them a little bit. But they need to allow themselves to have something else happen. They need to allow themselves to have more room to grow. They need to look out for their parents. That's one thing that I walked away from with this, is that it's the first time I watched a superhero series where I felt like, okay, I'm into the main characters. I see their plight, but their parents have a plight too, and the main characters are oblivious to it. And it's the first time, like I said, I've seen a superhero TV show where, you know, the parents are being ignored, and it's unjust. And they shouldn't be ignored. They should be acknowledged, and they probably need to be looped into what's going on. So that's a whole new dynamic that I've seen, because usually, you know, if you look at Smallville, you look at Superman and the Kents, they're all on the same page. You know, if you look at Alfred and Batman, Alfred's basically like his adopted father. They're on the same page. So, and then, you know, the island, the Themyscira with Wonder Woman on Amazon, the Amazon island, you know, her mom didn't want to let her go, but her mom trained her to be Wonder Woman. So eventually they're on the same page before she leaves. So right now, Tandy and Tyrone they're struggling to get on the same page with each other, and they don't realize they're struggling to get on the same page with their parents. It's all connected. And, you know, is Evita's aunt right about, is there a bad force, a dark force coming to New Orleans? Or is it just ramblings of a drunk, you know, older woman who has passed her prime? So, and will Ivan Hess ever wake up out of his catatonic state? You know, what happens when Tandy and Tyrone go into his mind? Especially since one can see if one can see his fears and one can see his hopes and dreams, what happens when you're watching that in his head? And how are they affecting him? Are they going to hurt him by touching him? Or are they going to help him? And what happens when the two of them touch each other, Tandy and Tyrone, when they hold hands? It gets very combustible. And, you know, what kind of energy comes from the Cloak and Dagger touching? So all those things lead for a great show. It's good drama. It's very gritty. It's very real. It's almost too real and kind of depressing a little bit. But there are joyful moments in it, and I'm very excited about season 2 because I really enjoyed season 1 and the way it ended. And both characters are definitely motivated. I can say that much about them. They're definitely motivated. But, you know, where they, you know, their struggle, you know, what's going to happen? How's it going to end? Can it be wrapped up nicely, neatly into a little bow? Or is it just still really messy? Tune in to find out. Once again, Marvel's Cloak and Dagger on the Freeform Network. And yes, American Horror Story. So where do I start? It seems like, I don't know if it was the Twilight Zone or Night Gallery, or maybe both, that inspired these new type of horror TV series. So now, okay, so the difference is with Twilight Zone, every episode was just in some bizarre, surreal, uncanny situation. And usually like a parable of a powerful story, a lesson learned. And the Night Gallery was just kind of even darker and creepier. I think the Night Gallery was like a sequel almost to Twilight Zone, because the Twilight Zone started off in black and white, and I think it got into color later. And then Rod Serling did Night Gallery, and I believe shortly after that he passed away after that series. That might have been the last thing that he did. I don't know offhand. But with American Horror Story, so there's that inspiration that we're going to give you some crazy and creepy stories. So, but American Horror Story is different because it is a genuine horror series, but each season is with one cast and it's a different story. But now they will use the same cast people in the different seasons to play different characters. So that's pretty cool. So we're in season 8 now, and it's called Apocalypse, and it's basically the sequel to the most popular season they had that was called Coven. I always knew of American Horror Story, but I didn't watch it until they did the Coven season with Jessica Lange, Kathy Bates, Angela Bassett, Sarah Paulson, Emma Roberts. That was in Gabori Sidibe from Empire. That was, and that Coven was about witchcraft and witches. And Jessica Lange, she just killed it. Academy Award winner Jessica Lange, Emmy Award winner Jessica Lange. She killed it. She had been doing the show for a few different seasons. And that season she had retired. And she has been gone for a few years. But she'll be back in this season. So Apocalypse picks up where Coven left off. But you don't see that right up close. And let me explain that to you. They kind of deceive you. I mean, we got the news blurb that, they're coming back for Apocalypse, but we didn't know, how they were going to do it. We'll talk more about that after this break.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back once again. You're listening to Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. This is your Captain Keith, and we are now talking about American Horror Story, the awesome horror TV series on the FX network. So, and they brought back some of our favorite people from the Coven season: Jessica Lange, Angela Bassett. Angela Bassett I haven't seen actually, so excuse me. I don't know if she's back yet. The season is still going on, but Jessica Lange, Gabor Sidibe, Sarah Paulson, Emma Roberts, Kathy Bates, they're all back. So what they did, which was very clever, so the first episode of season 8 is there's a nuclear attack, and a select few people, in order to survive it, they're going to live in a bunker. So it opens up and everyone's getting this message on their cell phone, and or on the TV, on the news, they're like, there's a missile coming this way. People need to evacuate, get into your bunker, save yourself. And basically, it was a nuclear attack that destroyed most of the world. And if you were able to get on this airplane, there's this one character. She's this basically rich debutante, a rich socialite who's just really obnoxious and spoiled and just overprivileged and self-entitled. And she has an assistant, and she just treats everybody like crap. Her parents call her and tell her, hey, we're not going to be able to make it, but you can't get on that plane and get out of here. We love you. Take care. And I still don't understand why the parents couldn't really make it to the airplane, the private plane. And this character, the socialite, she does bring her assistant with her, because her sister was just going to go home and try to be with her family, but she's like, they're not going to make it. You might as well just come with me. So she does that. So she comes with them. And that's cool. So, and then what's funny, and her assistant is played by Billie Lourd, and her name on the show is Mallory. So, and Leslie Grossman, she's the obnoxious rich socialite played by Coco St. Pierre Vanderbilt. It's all in the name. There you go. So basically, Coco gets a call from her boyfriend, and he's out about in the streets of LA, and he's nowhere near close to the airplane. She's like, hey, I love you. If you can make it, make it. I'll wait for you. She calls him. She's like, or I can't remember if she calls him or he calls her, but she's like, get to the plane. This is real. It's a real deal, because he's thinking it's a hoax. He's thinking it's a hoax, and then it's just, emergency broadcast testing system. Oh yeah, there's nothing real happening. So he doesn't make it to the plane. He calls her back. She's like, hey, I'm sorry. I'm here. We're leaving. Love you. Take care. And she's like, oh, by the way, remember that pact we made that we could see other people? Well, I'm invoking that now. We're officially broken up. So this is how shallow this person is. Her boyfriend, who's going to die, she breaks up with him, and she's like, later, dude. It's messed up. So she gets on the airplane. Oh, and then her hairdresser, played by Evan Peters, is Mr. Gallant. Delightful surprise, Joan Collins joins the cast for this season. Yes, folks, Joan Collins, famous for playing Alexis Carrington Colby from the original Dynasty series. Yes, it's good to see her. She looks great. And she's just in rare, awesome acting form. She's amazing to watch. She plays his grandmother. So Mr. Gallant is able to bring his grandmother on the plane. So Coco allows that. So it's Coco, her special assistant, her personal assistant Mallory, Mr. Gallant, and like I said, his grandmother, Joan Collins. What's her name on this show? Let's see. And she plays a famous actress from back in the day who knew all the heartthrobs, and she never hesitates to tell you about that in her conversations. Evie Gallant is who she plays. So they get on the plane, and then next thing you know, they wind up in the bunker. And they get to the bunker. I mean, it's all post-apocalyptic now. And then Sarah Paulson, who's been on the series for a while now, who's an important part of Coven, plays Miss Wilhelmina Venable. She's this mean-spirited lady who walks with a cane. And she's like, you've all survived because you were chosen. And the government picks some other people too, randomly to get on the plane to leave. They're trying to save and preserve bloodlines. So all these people are living in this bunker, and Miss Venable's in charge. This mean lady who walks with a cane, who has a bad leg, and she's like, "You are all color coded, and it's by class system." And that's how you find. You find out who the elites are and who the workers are, the drones, which is pretty creepy actually. And she's like, now mind you, when the people get to the bunker, they see someone get executed. So when Miss Venable is talking about the rules, she says there is no copulation. You are not allowed to have sex. You know, if you do, you saw what happened outside, you'll get killed, you'll get dealt with. So now wait a minute. How are you going to preserve my bloodline and tell me I'm an elite? That's why I'm here, and you're going to feed me, and I can't have sex or reproduce. How does that work? Makes no sense. And then Miss Venable has her girlfriend, who is basically Kathy Bates, and she plays Miss Miriam Mead, her henchman or henchwoman. So basically Miss Venable, she's not part of the class system because she's a worker. She hates everybody there. So her and her girlfriend Miss Miriam Mead, try to plot to get rid of everybody, but they want to do it in a very clever way so they don't get in trouble. And their bunker is aligned with other bunkers and other systems. They're working for a corporation, or a government corporation that's trying to keep certain people alive for the new world. So the people get restless. They can only eat small portions, and they're forced to listen to the same song over and over again until someone changes the song. So they all got like cabin fever, and it's driving them all nuts. And it's just really fascinating. That goes on for like maybe 2 or 3 episodes. And I'll just say that storyline basically morphs into the sequel to Coven, where the witches do manifest again. And then you get a storyline about that. And now Mr. Gallant, played by Evan Peters, is a part of the government corporation that's overseeing all these different bunkers. He comes for a visit. Now, it's a bad sign when he comes on horses. He walks into the bunker and his horses are dead. Like he killed them, or they just die after he's done using them in his carriage. So, and he's just like, hey, I'm from the government. I'm here to monitor and observe to see what you're doing. And of course, Ms. Venable doesn't want to tip her hand. So she's like, okay, that's cool. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. And then she realizes that he's in the way, and she's going to try to see if she can get rid of him. But she has no idea who he is. Yeah, he's working for the government, but he's a very powerful person. And his role, Mr. Gallant, plays a very pivotal part in this season rolling over into Coven. I'll say that much. Because we're like, okay, so, we were told these certain actors are coming back to revisit, give us the sequel to Coven. How are they going to do it? And you have no idea how badly I want to tell you guys how they do it. But I'll tell you, by the time you get to the third and fourth episode, it's about on and popping. Because then you're like, okay, well, where's this going to go? So, but Kathy Bates is a treat to watch, as always. Evan Peters does a great job playing Mr. Gallant. He kind of plays some mental mind games. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay, Evan Peters, Mr. Gallant, he's the hairdresser. Excuse me. Cody Fern plays Michael Langdon. He's the government official who comes on a horse carriage, and he walks inside the bunker, and his horses die outside of the bunker. And you know, this guy is kind of ominous. I mean, so Cody Fern is the guy. He's the actor who plays Michael Landon. Michael Landon is the key to, he's the key to the whole story. But like I said, I'm not going to tell you. So this season starts off one way and it morphs into another way. And it was superb how that happened. But Michael Landon is the character who's very powerful. I mean, he's someone to watch. You know, he's a powerful government official, and he's questioning Miss Venable. So, like I said, in the actor Cody Fern, he does a great job of being very creepy and sinister, and definitely has his own agenda. But the question is his agenda worse than Miss Venable's and Miss Mead's, or is it better? And who are the good guys and who are the bad people? Another thing about the setup of the first two episodes is like with the elites and the worker bees and all the color coding to save the bloodlines since the apocalypse, people start turning on each other, especially when they feel desperate, especially if they feel threatened, especially if they don't know if they're going to survive. You're seeing the worst of human nature. And then, you know, there's some manipulations going on too, you know, and it's from everybody. I'll say that much. You know, everybody has an agenda. So, and it's intriguing to see these characters, see who survived and what's going on and what makes them happy and what doesn't. And then you would think that, you know, surviving an apocalypse would make you more humble. But no, not Coco St. Pierre Vanderbilt. She's still kind of mean. But her personal assistant, Mallory, very soft-spoken, very humble, a likable character. Yeah. But like I said, Michael Landon, played by Cody Fern, very intriguing. He's someone definitely to watch out for in the series. Very much so. And I will say this, though. By the time you get to the witches, you know, you find out that they have a hierarchy too. And, you know, to me, when I'm watching the show, and I'm loving it so far, it's just about, I feel like this is all the dangers of having all these social classes and creating these social classes, because all they do is divide people. Some will argue that you need that. Others will argue that you don't. I don't see where having social classes actually makes the world a better place. But that's just my opinion. Hey, what do I know? I'm just a guy. Just a guy in the world. Just a human being. Ha. But it's very riveting to watch this series because, like I said, you know, so the witches have a hierarchy and they have drama and issues. You know, they have a class, a social class thing going on too. You have to tune in to see what I'm talking about. So between that and the people from the apocalypse who survived, the so-called elite people and their bloodlines, you know, because there's a couple that are in love with each other and they can't show affection because they'll get killed. So that's just like, you know, what kind of world is that? And why is Miss Venable so mean-spirited? Why is she? But she's a hypocrite too, because she's all about sleeping with Miss Miriam Mead, you know, played by Kathy Bates, you know, her assistant. But, you know, I guess you have to ask yourself, you know, what's the agenda? You know, why does she do this in secret? But, you know, so basically Sarah Paulson's character is mean, like I said, and she's do as I say, not as I do. It's that philosophy that she's on. And you're like, wow, really? That's how you're going to play it? But, everything's tied together between, like I said, the elite class that survived and the Coven of Witches. It's all intertwined. So if you enjoyed American Horror Story in that season of Coven, like that was the most watched season, I think, in their show's history, you're going to like this. And we're still waiting. Jessica Lange is going to show up. I just don't know when, but I'm excited to see her as well. So that'll be interesting. Well, good people of the planet Earth and the known universe, you've been listening to GSMC Television Podcast. This is your Captain Keith. I had a good time. I hope you did. 2 shows, Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. Check it out. It's worth it. Season 2 should be just as great as Season 1, if not better. And American Horror Story, Apocalypse. It's exciting. It starts off slow, but it picks up. And I'm just looking forward to this season finishing and seeing what the true sequel to is. The true conclusion to Coven. The favorite season that we all like to watch. So that's on the FX network. So you got Freeform Network with Marvel's Cloak and Dagger and American Horror Story Apocalypse on the FX network. Check them out. Once again, good people of planet Earth. Appreciate you all. Thanks again for listening. Hope you had a good time. I did. And the known universe. And the known universe for all you people on those different planets listening. Right on. So until next time, I'll see you somewhere out in space.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.